G'day everybody, it's Danny here from Board Game Sanctuary. I'm a board game hobbyist who loves sharing my passion and love for modern board games with my friends, my family, and of course you. And in this video, we're gonna look at how to get into modern board gaming. And if you are a beginner who's recently discovered that there are all these really cool board games out there and just want to know where to start, then you have come to the right place, my friends, because this video is going to be for you. About 8 years ago, I picked up a board game in a shop called Settlers of Catan, and there was something about the game that really sparked a lot of joy, and that was the idea of being able to get resources, trading resources with my friends, and trying to build a cool civilization, all contained within this microcosm of an island. And the competitive nature of the game really made the game super exciting and tense. I also liked how the game also had familiar concepts from other games I played, both as a child and then also in mainstream board gaming, which I really felt connected with. So my first tip is to get familiar with Board Game Geek. It is the ultimate treasure trove of all modern board game titles. It's like the Wikipedia page of board gaming, and you can literally spend hours, days, if not months, browsing the website for some of your favorite games. What I really like about Board Game Geek is that every single modern board game that has been released has its own page. So if I like a game like Wingspan, I know that it has its own Board Game Geek page, which has all the videos that are about Wingspan, images of the game, rules, variants, house rules, the weight of the game itself. So the weight is kind of like the complexity in terms of learning the game, but also playing the game. It also has the average play time, the ideal player count to play a game at. So if you're looking for games that are more solo based or for couples, every single board game page has a section which says this game is played best at, and it tells you what the community have voted on. It also has little mini reviews, so people have played the games. They often go on there and write their comments about the experiences of the game, which gives you a quick oversight of whether a game might be a good match for you. It also has the gameplay mechanics. So if you're someone who likes deck building or card drafting, which are terms which might sound a little bit unfamiliar at the moment, but as you kind of play more board games, you tend to pick up the lingo a little bit more. So if you like Wingspan and what that does, then you can look up other games with similar mechanics. What I also really like about the Board Game Geek page is the fact that it gives you the rank of the game. Now, I kind of take the rank with a grain of salt. Rank is kind of generated based on the number of people that rate that game. So it does come down to how many people have inputted information onto that game page, which does influence how high the game goes up. I also look at the average BGG rating. So out of 100 people that have played the game, what have they averaged it out to? And for me, my threshold for a board game, whether I want to buy it or not, sometimes does come down to this rating. So a good rating for me is about a 7 out of 10. And anything that's kind of like an 8 is considered very, very good. But anything that's kind of around the 6 to 6.5, it might be a little bit choppy. But that is not to say that a game is, just because a game is rated at a 6 or a 6.5, doesn't mean that game is not going to be a great game for you. In fact, everyone has their own personal taste, which I really, really love. Now, there's one part of the Board Game Geek page that sometimes I think gets underutilized. If you're someone who really enjoyed like a game of Wingspan, you think, oh, what other games out there might be similar to it? There is a cool function on each page called Fans Also Like. And basically, if you click on it, it reveals to you other games that people have also enjoyed who've enjoyed Wingspan too. You can do this with any game on Board Game Geek. So it might be Everdell or Scythe. If you enjoy those modern board games, or Settlers of Catan, or Ticket to Ride, you can click on this little link and it suggests to you about 8 to 10 other games that are similar or have a similar weight or feeling to it. Now, if you're searching for your first modern board game that you want to start your collection with, instead of just throwing your money at any game that passes by, it's a good idea to check out your local game store first. They'll often have a free library of games, or sometimes they might charge a short fee for you to be able to play any of their pre-owned games. That gives you a great sense of what might already be out there. You could also go online to Tabletopia, which often has a digital version of the game for you to try out for free before you actually buy the physical copy. Another thing I would do is also, if you've played a copy of a game with a friend, ask them if you can borrow it for a while and try it out and see if it's for you. You can also go into Facebook Marketplace, where people are often selling second-hand games that they do not wish to own anymore, and they're usually in really great condition. Board gamers love keeping all their components and bits in top-notch shape. Now, if you're interested in a lot of these heavy-hitting giant box games, before you dive right deep into them, try and play some of the stepping stone games that lead into these heavier games. Try and play a variety of different gateway games, which I like to call intro-level games, which kind of introduces the mechanics of these larger games at a much more simpler level, and see if it's to your taste. You know, if you have the opportunity to play a simple card drafting game, or maybe a simple Euro game, and the Euro game is basically a game which kind of has players doing their own thing, building little engines, getting points by satisfying certain criteria. There's a lot there that you could do if you can buy the smaller box versions of the game. And once you've kind of bought a smaller box version, you think, this game is kind of the sort of game that I might want to play, then you can kind of invest in other games which are a little bit thinkier, a little bit heavier, and a little bit more complex. Playing gateway games might essentially save you a lot of money. Not only that, if there are people in your life that aren't heavy into board games, then gateway games are probably going to hit the table a whole lot more often than some of the heavier games that might suddenly randomly appear in your collection. Sometimes the selection of games to choose from is incredibly overwhelming, and if you just entered the hobby recently, there have been thousands and thousands of games that have been released, and trying to sift through all of that to find one that is perfect for you can be extremely hard. One of the things I like to do is when I go into a game shop, I like to take my time. I like to look at everything, look at the theme, and see if the mechanics and the theme of the game is something that appeals to you. And you know what? If you're starting out, sometimes the first game that you pick up, if it looks good, feels good, and you like the kind of general gist of it, then I would just buy it. Just try it. Take it home, and then you'll really have a great starting point of where you think your board game taste might lie. And sometimes I try to avoid reviews or avoid online ratings, because sometimes I just want to connect with a game on my own level and discover it for myself. And you know what? If it doesn't turn out to be the game that I thought it was going to be, and that's okay, because I can always trade it or gift it to a friend later. Now, when I first got into modern board gaming, one of the biggest hurdles I found was trying to get my head around the board game lingo, board game jargon, and all the terminology used to describe the mechanics in a game. Someone would say a Mancala mechanism, and I'd be like, what on earth is it? Is it like some sort of alien creature that I need to know before I can play this game? So I often found the terminology created a wall around the hobby that made it harder for me to engage with it. Just wrapping my head around this new language was really actually quite tough. And I don't know if there was an easy way to kind of navigate that, but I do have a couple of videos that do summarize a lot of these board game mechanics, which I'll leave in the description box below. I think when I kind of embarked on this journey, I did research along the way that helped me to understand what an Ameritrash game was and what a Euro game was. You know, initially I thought a Euro game was just games set in Europe. I mean, there's a whole subset of descriptors that go with these categories of games. And then when people would use terms like worker placement, I'd be like, what does that actually look like? I mean, does that mean you put a worker somewhere and just leave them there? Maybe that's what it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. I didn't have much experience of trying to understand what these terms were. And even the idea of playing a game fully cooperatively, even just like completely just absolutely floored me, because I always thought games were just competitive. You were there to win against someone else. But the idea that you could team up and then play against the game system itself just really opened my mind to different approaches to playing games. So another issue I discovered when I first got into board games was that I was so deep into exploring all these cool, different, unique games that I felt like I was on my own island. Everyone around me would be like, what are you talking about? What is Spirit Island? What is Five Tribes? So I came to realize that maybe I was so deeply invested in this hobby that I was almost detaching myself from what makes it fun, and that is the social aspect of it. But then I did discover later on that, you know, it is okay. It is okay to be so deeply into a hobby that you might be the only one so far down the rabbit hole that you're not going to turn back. And one thing I discovered about modern board games is that a lot of games have a solo mode, solo campaigns, solo versions, where you can just sit and play a game on your own. And sometimes it's actually very therapeutic to do that. And sometimes it's also the best way to discover how to learn how to play the game without the pressure of everyone watching you and waiting for you to correct a rule. So playing modern board game solo is actually one of my favorite ways to play board games. My final tip is just enjoy yourself, have fun, let go, and it doesn't matter what theme, what rank, or what rating a game might be. If that game has piqued your interest in some way, then I say go with it, go with your heart, and just play that game to its fullest. And you know what? That game only has to be good for you. And if you enjoy it, then ticks all the boxes. Now, I know I've just scraped the surface of some of the tips that might be able to lead you into this very complex yet very open hobby. So I plan to make a few more videos that are centered around this topic of getting new people and making it easier to dive into this wonderful board gaming world. Now, if you really found this video super helpful and want to see more videos like this, please let me know in the comment section below, and like and subscribe to my channel. A whole other range of videos to check out on my main page. If you want to have a little bit more say over the direction of where this channel is going, please head over to my Patreon page and support me over there. Otherwise, this is Danny signing out. I hope to see you again soon and hope your next board game is amazing. See you soon.